Is Helldivers 2 back, boys? New weapons, no more nerfs, the complete chaos. Are we really back? Let's find out.
Number go up. Usually when we say that though, something grim has happened with stonks, but today it's Helldivers 2. It just hit 68k concurrents in Steam. That's actually their highest since the 17th of June. And that's not the only number that's went up because damage
Wow, that is actually amazing.
Is way up in the game. Now, the update that this all happened with has left Helldivers 2 greatly changed, but it's only one part of a 60-day plan that Arrowhead have got. We don't actually know what's next, but there's every chance that content has been
It's been a few weeks into our 60-day plan and we're busy refining Helldivers 2. From weapons balancing, I hope that this means that they're just gonna stop nerfing things into the ground when people find something that's good. And enemy behavior to game mechanics. Today we're excited to share more details about our upcoming update. Oh boys, is it true? Is Helldivers actually back? I mean, I wanna hope.
Been held back in favor of doing these fixes first. And a lot of people are thinking about the third faction in the Helldivers universe, the Illuminate. Basically, these guys were in Helldivers 1, they're not in Helldivers 2, but they kind of were because they appeared on the map 2 weeks ago. Now, they did say in social media that this is just fake news, but in-game, you did see a system.
The fact that they can just go on in social media and say, ah yeah, fake news, bot propaganda, or, you know, support for the bugs. Ah, that is so good. That is one of the coolest parts of Helldivers, the community.
System report noting an outage coming in from command, so I think that is absolutely Joel teasing us. I kind of refuse to believe this is a bug given how they run Helldivers. I think it's some hype building. Something they'll be in for the 1-year anniversary of the game, which would be a little while. Others though think sooner, and it's probably not at the end of their 60-day plan. But no matter what, this is the plan that will lay Helldivers 2's new foundation, just as I'm doing with today's sponsor. We're going to help you save money. In fact, within a few hours, they can
How about now?
So many. And of course, by changes, I mean buffs, and they're big. Take the railgun. Its effective damage potentials can be tripled. Thermite grenades have had their damage.
Dude, this is what I was talking about. We talked about this previously, that the Helldiver developers took the completely wrong approach. You can choose to do one of two things if the game is not balanced. You can nerf everything into the ground, which is going to make people just be mad, or you can buff everything, but not mention it and make the enemies more or stronger. There are many ways that you can do it. But certainly nerfing things that people like in the game constantly. Literally, you're playing the game, your favorite weapon, that's the best weapon obviously, gets nerfed. And then you find a new weapon that actually feels good. And guess what? That's getting nerfed in 2 hours and you haven't even played it properly. It's bad. So, buffing everything? Beautiful. I like to see this.
Output multiplied by 20. Even the bog standard Liberator rifle has all stats increased by 10 to 20%. At the highest level, we're seeing updates to 13 primaries, 3 sidearms, 10 supports, 2 grenades, and 11 stratagems. So basically a shitload, but it's not just the numbers. Take, say, flamethrowers, heavy machine guns, and a few other weapons. They now do more damage to armored enemies, and armored enemies themselves have actually been reworked, meaning it's a really bad day to be a bug, and that matters a lot to players. I'd say mostly because of Chargers and Bile Titans. They're both pretty hated, and they've now got enhanced weak spots and lower.
Well, yeah, obviously they're hated. They're annoying and big and scary and stuff.
Stats. The automatons aren't safe either though, because now, like us, the poor bastards have got to reload, and the big hit there is whenever you're being pummeled by devastators and gunships. Basically, Arrowhead saw feedback that they were way too oppressive, so now there's an ammunition.
Way too oppressive. How many videos have you seen of someone just running and they can't stop running, otherwise they're just gonna die? That's some good stuff right there.
And reload thing going on with them, and they've also made it so bot fabricators are killable by all anti-tank weaponry, not just the commando launcher. So basically, the people wanted buffs. It's safe to say they have now got buffs. It's what the loudest of the feedback has been for the last 2 months, all while people have looked at Space Marine 2's Power Fantasy and just said, yeah, we want that. And this is something that represents a massive change. Arrowhead's older focus was more on the hard counters, right? So whenever they were doing nerfs, they were basically nerfing outliers that they felt broke their design and kind of limited choice by making something just so damn powerful that everybody would use it. Which, of course, if you're using it and having having fun didn't feel great.
Now, granted, this is great for now, but keep in mind, this is gonna probably create obvious problems in the future, so there you kind of go.
Right. So, to sum it up, right, weapon rules still do exist, and you will be stronger if you follow those weapon rules, but it's not as hard a counter sort of situation as it used to be in the past. Now, in a way, I could see a game designer cry at this, but it does also open a new door. Before we check what's behind that door, though, what about the player numbers and the reviews? The peak of 68k has managed to
Dude, that is such a great number. That's insane.
top escalation of Freedom's peak, and then that fell to a trough of 24k. And of course, as I record this, it's already on its way back up, and it could even go higher as we go into the weekend and like positive information just spreads around the internet. Now, their average trough on Steam a few weeks back was like 6k players, so moving from 6k to 24k is definitely quite good, but obviously it's early days yet. Where it gets more interesting is reviews. The last 30 days of reviews come out to 58%, which is pretty damn bad, but I think this chart makes the point very clear. It's kind of a total reversal. And if you look at just reviews that have came out with the update, they're actually trending at around 89%, which is pretty much more than any dev could hope for. It's amazing. And this is all especially great because of what this patch is. It's just balance. It's not content. I mean, there sort of is content. There's weather and there's an emote wheel. There's also going to be a new warband, but it will not have impacted these numbers. And the timing in that's absolutely smart. The delay lets them firefight any problems that the patch creates, then they let the positive sentiment spread, and right as it's at its peak near the weekend, bam, the warband drops. Pretty smart. Of course, it's still the case that to many people this is all far too late. To Arrowhead, though, well, they are a Swedish company. Summer holiday.
It's not too late at all. I hate this idea. Oh, that game that you played and liked? Well. Now it's not that good as it was previously, so you're never gonna play it again, even if they make it good. No, this is not true. Look at No Man's Sky, look at Cyberpunk 2077, don't look at Starfield. You know, there are so many exceptions of games that got better, they were fixed, and they have a huge player base. Now, it's so simple. There is no such thing, this game came out 3 years ago, I'm not gonna play now. Look at World of Warcraft, everyone's still playing a classic like there's no tomorrow, okay? Make good game, people play it. It's that simple.
Holidays are an enshrined, respected, and important thing over there, which, look, if you're a European company, but you're working with an American audience who are not used to that kind of thing, yeah, you're going to have problems. Now, they'll be thinking, look, the people who make the game have got families, so if we went full sound all over the summer, we'd burn ourselves out and it would be bad for the game. And they've essentially said as much publicly. What's good then is that they're pretty early back, they've got an extremely strong foundation, and now that more of their team are in, well, there's a good foundation. They can actually make content in an environment where social media is jubilant and people actually feel listened to. But as much as all this feels good, we got to think about the future. Is this just a sugar rush? And is Helldivers 2 actually going to be a sustainable game that's also the game they want to
finally not only blowing up of the tiny ones, but now also gassing of them. I approve this message, obviously.
Early in the summer, Arrowhead made much of how the game is now appealing to different audiences and more audiences than they expected because basically it just sold so damn well. And so it's a question. Do you want an ultra-hard, punishing, very rock, paper, scissors with milsim?
No. Most people don't want this, okay? Maybe they want a little bit of that military simulation bullshit. They want a little bit of that punishment. They want a little bit of that skill required. But most people do not want the hardest shit ever. For example, look at Lost Ark. Probably the, on average, hardest game that's not intentionally made to, you know, piss people off because it's so hard. How many players does it have? Not that many. It still has a functioning player base and whatnot. No problem there. But then look at something like Elden Ring. Not actually a hard game. Again, Lost Ark supremacy right there, boys. It's in the blood. And people play that a lot because it's not actually a hard game. You just need to dodge a couple of attacks from bosses until you learn the pattern, and there you go. People want the illusion of something being hard. People want to just pat themselves on the back because we did a good thing and it was hard and rewarding. That's what we want. And there's no shame in that, okay? Absolutely no shame.
Elements leaning co-op shooter, or do you want a team power fantasy with far less prescriptive design? And for another example, one that so many of us feel, and I feel, it's Doom. Doom 2016 is pure FPS power fantasy. Doom Eternal, though, it's an incredible character action game inspired FPS that, because of its ammo limitations and how it was balanced, to some is a far better game, but definitely is one that's got less appeal. In this case, though, it's a live game, they listen to their audience, and the whole marketing campaign is just one word: buff divers, so you know what's going on. Their decision is basically to downplay their initial instincts, to lean in power fantasy, and here's how they've basically said things in their own words. Many expressed feeling constrained in how they approach challenge, often relying on a limited set of tools while other options seem less effective. This has impacted your ability to play.
Yeah, and their mistake was, instead of making everything more effective, just nerf the things that are most effective.
Play the game in a way that suits your preferences. Now, in a way, does that sound like a...
By the way, I completely see no problem in a game that is like Helldivers, that has, like, you know, you have your bugs, you have your Roombas with knives and whatnot, and that some weapons are better against bugs and some weapons are better against Roombas. I don't want a pure balance that where every weapon is equally good against everything, because that's kind of boring. That is kind of boring.
Visionary, pioneering designer laying out their vision of the future. No, it seems like somebody who is managing a currently played product for its current audience. Now, of course, it's not like the original vision of the game is fully dead. Here's what Johan said, quote, "There's a potential to excel by using the right tools like spear and railgun against Bile Titans, but you could in theory defeat them with a 4-stack of flamethrower madmen." And so that's what we're getting. More personal expression, less reliance on team loadout coordination, and something that's a funny twist on the game's marketing. And the game's marketing is inherently fascinating too because of how it's permeated throughout the internet. So
that Helldivers has had, honestly, the best marketing in years. Because it's community driven, and it's still community-driven. Now, Helldivers is off its peak, so, you know, there's not so many memes, and the memes did get a little bit old, but, you know, it's still hilarious.
Leaned fully into Starship Troopers, promising you with the glory of the overpowered weapons of Super Earth, but then delivering the reality of, think back to any death clip from Starship Troopers. The entire macro-narrative design point there is propaganda at home, grim reality at the front, that then is coped with via cultural values that morph, that cope with the grim reality and sort of transmute it into propaganda at home. That's why, as an example, every adult you see back on Earth in Starship Troopers is an amputee who is massively patriotic, and in the context of, say, this game, it's why they've got the kind of funny ragdoll physics that look brutal. It's why they've got the milsim elements in reloading and in how hard the counters were. The idea...
Reloading is a military simulation thing? Bitch, please.
The idea there was that Starship Troopers sent you into a totally foobar situation that you are not equipped for because of bad planning. But of course, a film isn't a game, and the macro-narrative design ambitions will work amazingly for some, but for long-term play, then there's playability to think of, and that's where we get to player expression. As a puzzle to solve, I totally get the very prescriptive design that they were going for, but thinking about how a game can make memories, I think what you'd almost call a Battlefield moment, to sort of harken back to Battlefield 3's marketing campaign, yeah, if you all just use your railguns and perfectly deal with the Bile Titan, congratulations, you have done it good, you're a boss. But if you were a bunch of stupid madmen who ran up to it with flamethrowers and you somehow survived, well, it's not optimal, but maybe it's something you remember and it's fun. And so Helldivers 2 now is in a fundamentally different direction to launch, both.
If anyone starts a game by playing for fun, then you get better at it and you want to do the best thing because the best thing's more fun. And then you lock yourself into this stupid situation where you want to do the best thing meta-wise because it's the most effective, and losing is not fun, and then you kind of burn yourself out. I think all games suffer from this to a degree if you keep playing them for an extended time.
Both in terms of its game direction, but also personal player power. Just contrast everything you've heard today with this quote from their head of testing in March. Many have commented that primary weapons aren't powerful enough and are unable to deal with all the enemies with the amount of ammunition required or their raw DPS. Emphasized This is very much intentional. You need to rely on your stratagems and the stratagems of your team to deal with all the enemies effectively. That design's still there, it's just a bit less impactful. That is, of course, until difficulty goes up, and that's because as you scale up numbers, differences between numbers get magnified, and that is the door that is opened that I talked about earlier. So many games, Helldivers included, find out that getting balance right across multiple difficulties is extremely hard, and that's because what feels like fair balance for most, magnified by scale, makes a tool useful or useless. And so theoretically, at least in a few ways, if they wanted some of the old feel of their design, they could just crank up a bunch of those numbers. And now for what you didn't expect, the heel turn. Yeah, I'm now the bad guy. Let's talk about things. They now run a live service game. Their success is no longer just their design, it's making their design land. Do you ever wonder why games drift away from you over time, change radically over time, streamline the edges out? It's tough to do a live game. Few survive intact, others like WoW get it so wrong they're then forced to gut their fundamentals and rebuild. But for a different game that is a very useful contrast, Dark Souls. The whole please provide an easy mode.
I'm missing his point here. I don't get it.
Discourse has simmered on for years, but the developers never yielded. They knew what they wanted from their game. And to them, easy mode already existed. It's using sword and board. But an argument could be made, it's not one I agree with, but it could be made to dilute their vision, to do an easy mode, let more people in, and hope that easy mode gets them ready for the true challenge, that it's an onboarding ramp. FromSoft simply did not want to do that. I think they certainly would not want to split their efforts between two difficulty modes where they would want both of them to be brilliant. With Helldivers 2, if it weren't a live service game, it would be the same thing, but it's very easy to deal with things in absolutes. This is not about absolutes, though. This is a live game, that means you've got to be pragmatic, and this does look like the right call for Helldivers 2. Early data certainly backs up that it's the right call. There are downsides, yes, but the upsides are certainly worth it. For FromSoft, they just wouldn't be. Arrowhead are aware, though, of an immediate danger. They've said that all of this change means that overall difficulty may decrease, and that's something they are monitoring closely and listening to.
Well, if overall difficulty decreases and people get mad about that, you always have the ability to just add more enemies to the screen. And that probably is going to be good, because I remember a couple of months ago, I was watching a Helldivers clip, and it was so fucking boring. It's like one enemy, and you shoot it, and there's one more enemy. Where are all the billions and trillions of enemies going at you, okay? Everyone wants that. No one wants to deal with one small enemy at a time. It's boring. Anyway, that was Bellier. 10 out of 10. Bye!